Welcome to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by Prashant Sabapathi of Elite Income Advisors. Prashant, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm always excited when I know we're going to be in the studio together because we always have amazing shows with great information to the viewing audience at home.
Absolutely, I love it, and I know we got a special show for today, so I'm really looking forward to it.
We have a very special show today because I've been doing a little bit of research when we're not together, and I was curious to see if there were any specific challenges that our female viewers may face in the audience today that are approaching retirement.
Yeah.
I came up with 20 points that I would love to toss at you.
I love it.
So this today is all about women.
Let's
ready?
do it. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Perfect. So one of the number one things that actually came up, and I think this is very interesting, is overall financial security for women as they're getting close to retirement. The need to ensure they have enough savings and investments to cover living expenses and health care costs. Prashant, why do you see that as being especially important for women?
So if you look at the statistics are going to pretty much say that women are going to, on average, outlive men, right? And so when that happens, the cost of health care is enormous in retirement. So I can absolutely see why health care expenditures and making sure that you have enough money to deal with that type of thing is an important thing for a lot of women out there. Is what happens if you live to be 85, 90, 95 years old. I mean, my grandmother just turned 98 years old.
Oh, mine is 93.
Okay, there you go, exactly.
I love it.
And so 98 years old, if that happens to you, you want to make sure that you can not only just meet your needs, but hopefully have a very fulfilling retirement, but make sure that you have enough money. Make sure that you have the resources at your disposal to take care of your health care in retirement. So very important. I think it's definitely a bigger concern for women than men that we've seen in our office. And so that's why we love doing these shows, is to try to put that education out there so people can have a solid foundation on how they should be thinking about the future in terms of their retirement plan.
Absolutely, and I love that you mentioned longevity because that is true.
Yeah.
The studies say. So Prashant, this next one, gender pay gap. Lower lifetime earnings due to the gender pay gap can result in reduced retirement savings. There was another study that kind of tagged together with this, where women in the same roles a lot of times can earn 21% lower income than their male counterparts, which means they're investing less. Let's talk a little bit about that, the gender gap role, if we could.
And here's another thing to kind of piggyback on that. When we have less in earnings, not only are we able to save less money, but think about how your Social Security benefit is actually calculated, right?
Yeah.
Your Social Security, believe it or not, looks at your entire earnings history to determine what that benefit is going to be. Typically, they're going to look at things like your highest 35 years of earnings indexed for inflation. Well, if we're starting at a base that is inherently lower, then that means there's less being paid into Social Security, which now means that your Social Security income in retirement may actually be lower as well. So yes, we, when that's the case, we're suffering in two different areas. It's not just that we can't save enough money, but it's also that our Social Security benefit is not going to be quite as high as we were maybe anticipating. And Social Security, we know, is a foundational source of income, an income that we should always be able to depend on. But if Social Security is not enough on its own, which, by the way, for most people, Social Security on its own is not enough, it's compounded by that issue of maybe not having enough resources to put away to supplement Social Security in retirement.
Prashant, thank you so much. This next one, inflation, the eroding effect of inflation on purchasing power over time. That's a big one to consider as well when you think about it, because obviously if you have $1 million saved today, I'm just going to throw that out there, is that going to be $1 million 20 years from now? Let's talk about that.
Look, as prices go up, your purchasing power goes down. That same $1 million does not go quite as far when prices go up by 3, 4, 5, 6% every single year. And so that's a scary thing to go through, because I'll tell you what, getting to $1 million is a heck of an accomplishment. Okay, where I'm from, $1 million is a lot of money, but what does that mean? That means that if our purchasing power consistently gets eroded down due to high inflation, you might need $1 million or $1.5 million or maybe even $2 million to create the income that you're actually going to need after taxes to support the lifestyle that you want to have. So inflation, I think, is a huge concern, as it should be, because the thought is, what if the inflation that we saw in 2022 and even in parts of 2023, what if that is not the outlier, but what if that is the new normal? Ooh. If that is the new normal, then that is a really scary thing to go through.
It definitely is. Well, Prashant, this next one I want to talk about a little bit as well, because caregiving responsibilities for women specifically, balancing retirement plans with the potential need to care for aging parents or family members. I can relate to this one specifically because I was in the sandwich generation, if you will, taking care of my daughter while she was younger, also my mom as she was in her final years. It's very stressful because you're trying to balance everything and you're also trying to be saving, but that's difficult. So let's talk a little bit about that with women.
I think your experience is one that several women kind of go through, and that's a difficult thing. I mean, I'm going through the long-term care process with my own mother right now, who needs 24/7 care. Even my wife was diagnosed with a disease that has some potential for long-term care in the future, Huntington's disease. And so that's the type of thing where, you know, if you have to do that and you have to balance saving for yourself and you have to, like in your circumstance, be, you know, raising a child on your own, that is a heck of a lot to have to overcome. And you need to make sure that you have the appropriate tools to be able to do that. But my biggest fear right now for folks out there is that those tools are not readily accessible. That education is not there. And so that's why we do the show every week. It's not necessarily to have people come in and become a client of ours. It's really to increase the amount of financial literacy that people have. I think the more educated people are, the better decisions that they're going to be empowered to be able to make, right? And so that's why we do the show. Let's open up our phone lines like we do every week. It's 833-308-5200. If you can relate to some of the things that we've been talking about today, if you're not sure, you know, if you have enough to retire the way that you want to, if you're not sure what your Social Security benefits may look like due to your earnings history, it's a great opportunity for you to pick up the phone and give us a call. When you come in to visit with us, everything is totally confidential. There's absolutely no pressure to do anything when you come in to visit with us. And it's totally complimentary. So you come in to visit, we're going to have a conversation about putting together a real comprehensive written retirement plan that's going to include a projection of your income for the rest of your life, Social Security optimization strategies to ensure that you can try to maximize your benefit. And we'll even talk about things like the stock market. How is your portfolio going to react if we hit another recession, or maybe we're already there? And of course, we have to talk about taxes. If taxes go up, how will that impact your retirement? It's a great opportunity for you to come in, visit with us, and figure out whether or not you're on track. This is what we call the Retire Smart Road Mapping process. It's 833-308-5200. If you can't dial the phone number right now, you can scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen, book an appointment that way. You can also visit retiremaryland.com, schedule an appointment there. You can also pick up a complimentary copy of my book, Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth, which will help you get educated on how to plan for your retirement.
This is a great book. Thank you, Prashant. To our viewers at home, the number to call is on your screen, 833-308-5200. We are talking about specifically women's needs in retirement today, but for the men in the audience, this show is still very much for you. It could involve your wife or someone that you love that's a female. So please stay tuned. We have more to get through. We're talking about women in retirement, 833-308-5200. We'll be right back momentarily on Retire Smart Maryland.
Before COVID, we were around 4 or 5 people.
It's a pretty tight-knit team that we have.
But now we are growing, and we have about 14 people right now.
It's really 4 or 5 advisors and 4 or 5 support folks, plus an accountant, CPA.
What I'm trying to really create is the family place that everyone loves what they do and enjoys helping the client. My parents, when they had their own company with my father, everybody liked to work because like he liked to take care of the people, he likes to help the people, and I'm trying to establish the same thing in our company.
It's very much a team kind of family-like culture at our company. You know, we hang out outside of work. We care a lot about each other's personal lives as well.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by Prashant Sabapathi of Elite Income Advisors. Prashant, a great show we have today, talking about the needs that women have in retirement. You and I were talking a little bit in the commercial break about it's so common sometimes, let's just say a husband and wife, they're in the audience today, they're watching, they both have a cup of coffee in hand, they're on the couch, and men typically like to take control of that aspect, if you will. They say, you know, honey, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm working on our retirement. But then sometimes what can happen, and I've seen this in the past with friends of mine as well, where the husband unexpectedly passes away. The female that's left behind, she doesn't even know where to go, where to start, who to talk to. So let's talk about how important it is to have the female involved in financial planning.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. If you're sitting at home and, you know, typically one person, whoever it is, one person tends to gravitate more to handling certain things, and another person is going to gravitate more to handling other things. I think that when it comes to your finances, it's so important that both partners are on the same page. Okay, they have to be on the same page because, to your point, at some point in time, one of those people will not be there. And when that person is not there anymore, it's tough. The last thing you want to do is being in a situation where you're trying to pick up all the different pieces because you weren't on the same page. And so one of the things that we always encourage is that if you're married or if you have a partner, a life partner, whatever it is, when you come in to visit with us, make sure that both of you come in for that visit together. Even if one person primarily handles most of the planning and most of the money, it's really important that both people come in together to make sure that we all have an understanding of what happens in a catastrophic scenario. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people not be on the same page, and now they have to deal with the passing of a loved one, and then they have all the added stress of, I don't know anything about the financial situation. You do not want to be in that position. I've seen people go through that. It's a really difficult thing to do. And by that point in time, it's too late to start, right? So you want to get started on that, and you want to get started right now.
Absolutely. And obviously we talked a little bit about your book, Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth, Prashant, but what I love specifically is that it's so easy to understand. Where I'm going with that is the fact that a lot of the females that I speak to, just traveling around and talking to people, they sometimes feel that they're not being listened to. Or they don't understand what the financial advisor is saying because they're using terms that are just so complicated. You have a way of really boiling things down and making it easy to understand. You have a heart of education. So let's talk about why that's important to have women specifically be able to listen to you for guidance.
And you know, I think the interesting thing is that when we create plans, we listen more than we actually talk, you know, and it's not, when you come in to visit with us, it's not about me telling people what to do with their money, okay? It's about understanding how you can put your money to work to accomplish what is important to you. And to your point, I wrote the book in the way that I did because I made a commitment to keeping things simple. Okay, now I'm not saying retirement planning is easy. It's certainly not easy. It's not, the job we do is not an easy job. The people that plan for retirement, it's not an easy thing to go through. But I'll tell you what, you have a choice to either make it really complicated or really simple. And what we try to do is we try to make things really simple. I believe that you should be able to look at one sheet of paper on any given day and know what your net worth is. How much wealth do you have? You should be able to do that by looking at one sheet of paper. You should be able to look at one sheet of paper or one TV screen like you'll see when you come into our office how much income am I going to have after tax every single year for the rest of my lifetime? Is that income going to have the capability of increasing every year for the rest of my lifetime? It's got to be simple. I've been doing this long enough to know that when you start introducing really complex things, people tune out.
Yeah,
okay. And so what we've made a commitment to do is keep things as simple as possible. And that comes with creating that foundation of education. You know, I actually, I'll tell a quick story. I was down in DC a couple months ago. One of our really good clients introduced me to her workplace, and we actually went in and we did a 1 hour long workplace on, you know, something that's important to me is helping minorities, create more financial literacy. I did a 1 hour workshop on that. I did a separate workshop with that same employer on how to deal with long-term care situations. And it was a diverse group, a lot of women, a lot of men, but everyone came together, exchanged really good ideas. And I think that's what it's all about. When you come in to visit with us, you're not coming in saying, hey, Prashant, tell me what to do with my money. It's let's have a conversation. Let's exchange really good ideas and see whether or not we can create a plan that ultimately works for you. That's what I love to do, is help educate folks.
And it shows. It definitely shows. Well, Prashant, this next question, this is very interesting as well. Retirement lifestyle for women, adjusting to a new lifestyle and finding purpose and fulfillment after leaving the workforce. This is interesting because obviously you and I both know that when you've worked at a certain location for a period of time, that becomes your family unit almost. It's where you go to get your work done, but you're also socially involved with those friends. You retire, and a lot of those ties are severed. So how do you help find purpose in retirement?
Look, I think purpose is different to every single person, but what I think is that you should almost have a way to test run your retirement, right? So maybe that involves not just flipping the switch from working one day to being retired the next. Maybe you gradually transition into that retirement phase of your life. Maybe it's really just sitting down and having an honest conversation with what makes you happy, right? At the end of the day, if you're working for 30 or 40 years, you've sacrificed a large percentage of your time in pursuit of this next phase of your life. When you get to that next phase, when you get to retirement, the one thing that you should not do is compromise on the things that fulfill you, right? Whether that's volunteering, whether it's being involved with the church, whether it's, spending more time with your kids and your grandkids, whether it's traveling the world. Everybody has a little bit of a different purpose. My belief is when you get to retirement, you should already have the tools to make sure that your retirement is as fulfilling as possible. And that's what we talk about in the book. You know, the first chapter in the book is just all about creating a vision of what retirement should look like. And I think that stuff is so much more important. And quite frankly, it's so much more fun to talk about than talking about some stock or bond or mutual fund or annuity. That stuff's important, but it's not nearly as important as creating a vision of what you want life to look like.
Well, Prashant, this is the perfect time for us to open the phone lines. Would you agree?
I love it. Let's do it. The phone number is 833-308-5200. We have operators standing by. When you call into that phone number, the operator will be ready to schedule your appointment. So make sure you have your calendar with you when you call in. Again, 833-308-5200. When you do schedule that visit with us, it is totally complimentary, folks. That means when you come in to visit, you leave your checkbook at home. You're not coming in agreeing to become a client. You're not coming in agreeing to break up with the current advisor that you're working with. But what you are doing is you're getting exactly what you need, which is a written retirement plan that walks you through your income for the rest of your life, that has a conversation built in about whether or not the threat of rising taxes is going to impact your ability to retire. What about inflation? If inflation stays the way that it is, are you going to have enough to retire the way you want to? The last thing I'll say is legacy planning. I know how important it is for both women, minorities like myself, to leave a meaningful legacy. And so we will help you have that conversation on how to create a written legacy plan. All starts with that phone call. You have to call right now. It's exclusive for our television audience, 833-308-5200. You can also visit retiremaryland.com.
Prashant, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen, 833-308-5200. As I mentioned before our last commercial break, today's show does specifically talk about women's needs in retirement. But to our male viewers at home and to the woman that you love, this is also important to you because you want to make sure that she's going to be okay when you're not here any longer. So again, 833-308-5200. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on Retire Smart Maryland, but we have more about the women's needs in retirement when we return.
Some people don't really know what they need. It's not about the money. It's more like what you like to do when you retire.
I always say to people, our process is not really designed to turn every single person into a client. We're just trying to determine whether or not we're the right fit for you. When we talk with someone, it's about determining what our goals and dreams and objectives are, and then really putting together a concrete, balanced plan with a strong foundation of income.
Not everyone comes to the office becomes a client, right? You know, we may not be a good fit for that people.
Anytime you're working with any advisor or considering working with an advisor, you have to align on certain things. But that doesn't happen with every single person that we meet with.
Whatever is going to make you happy, because there is so much time in the retirement that you can still be active and doing a lot of stuff. And at the end, if you have all the income you need coming in to do all the things you love, then I believe that you're in great shape.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by Prashant Sabapathi of Elite Income Advisors. Prashant, what a great show we're having today. A very special show.
Yeah, for sure.
Geared towards our females in the audience, if you will. This next one I love. This is also something that we talk about, the importance of financial literacy, increasing financial knowledge and staying informed about retirement planning options. Why is that specifically important to our female viewers?
Look, I think the bigger the educational base is, the better position you're going to be in to make great decisions. You know, I think that's just what it comes down to. When my parents came over to America, they came here so that my brother and I could be educated in a different way that maybe they were not when they were back in India, right? And so I think that we want to continue on that trend by providing as much free education as we possibly can. I think the more education you have, the better decisions you're going to be able to make. Not only that, the better you're going to be able to evaluate the advice that's given to you, whether it's given to you by my firm or anybody else out there. If you have a bigger knowledge base, you're going to be able to more fairly evaluate what you're being shown, and that's going to empower you to make the best decisions possible.
Prashant, thank you so much. This next one, this kind of ties into something that we talked about earlier, but number 20, the rising costs of living, meeting the rising costs of basic necessities such as food, utilities, and transportation.
Yeah.
That's a big one for females to be thinking about, and let's just kind of tag that into perhaps if they lose their spouse.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I mean, look, the last couple years here with inflation has just been completely ridiculous. And for you know, the news out there to say inflation is getting better and better and better, but to me, when I go to the grocery store, I don't feel that.
I
right?
totally agree.
I absolutely don't, and I know a lot of the people out there feel it as well, that things are expensive, and it's really, really scary out there to think, hey, I was paying $200 for my electric bill, and now it's $400 a month, and I'm not doing things that differently, right? And so I think that is a huge part of it. You talked about losing a spouse. I mean, some of our dearest clients are widows now, right? And one of my favorite clients lost her husband some time ago, and I think what that has done is it's strengthened our relationship because now we can look at things from a different lens. And one of the things that we have to be able to plan for is something that I call the widow tax, right? Okay. The widow tax is this idea that when you're married, you file your taxes how? Married filing jointly. Most of the time, right? And now when you lose your spouse, you change that from married filing jointly to filing
single
or individual. And now the individual brackets are totally different than the married filing jointly brackets. And now you were maybe paying a lower tax rate filing jointly, and now the widow tax is effectively the terminology we use to say that filing as an individual, you're going to be paying more. Not only that, what happens to Social Security when one spouse passes away? You end up losing typically the lower of the two Social Security benefits forever. And so not only do you have less income, but maybe that lower amount of income is taxed at a higher rate. It's really a domino effect. It's a really scary thing to go through, which is why I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because these are the types of things that people don't often think about enough through no fault of their own. I think they just don't know to even begin to think about it. And that's why I think it's really important that we talk about it.
Well, because women are often so busy, right? We're wearing multiple hats. We're going in so many different directions. We're taking care of so many people, sometimes husbands included. They need stuff, right? So you don't have time to really think about it. So there's one statistic, only 12% of women are very confident that they will be able to retire with a comfortable lifestyle. 12%, Prashant. What can you do to change that?
That's a disappointingly low number. That is the feeling of the majority of women out there. We want to do everything that we can to get you feeling as confident as possible about your ability to retire. And so that's why we offer this free. It's totally complimentary. When you come in to visit with us, it's a real conversation about putting together a plan. Here's what I will say, Cynthia. Of all the folks that come in to visit, and a lot of the women that come in to visit with us, what we actually find is that they're in much better of a position than they actually give themselves credit for. And that's just because they've never been shown a real plan. Okay, so to all of our women who are watching the show, who have been watching the show, supporting me, supporting our firm in the last couple of years, all the ladies that work in our office, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say something about Alyssa, right, my wife, right? So we want to say thank you for, putting a lot of faith in us, a lot of trust in us. Thank you for all that you do for us. And so our kind of way of saying thank you is to put out that complimentary consultation to everybody out there, specifically women, but really everybody. You can call in. The phone number is 833-308-5200. Come in to visit with us. We're going to help you put that written retirement plan together. Again, that's 833-308-5200. It's going to help take the mystery out of the financial planning process. We'll show you how protecting some of your assets may lead to a more fulfilling retirement income and a more fulfilling retirement lifestyle. So 833-308-5200. You can also visit retiremaryland.com.
Thank you, Prashant. To our viewers at home, thank you for spending time with us today. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today on Retire Smart, Maryland.